Hey, welcome to Nerd Chapel. I have missed a couple weeks with videos here, and there's a few reasons for that. One of them is that my dad has been in bad health and did in fact pass away. So I've been dealing with my dad's health and his death and all that entails. Another part of it is that I've realized the next two chapters we're going through are both part of Holy Week. And being only a couple weeks away from Holy Week, I'm like, this kind of works out. I can focus on this. I did not plan on recording this video the evening after my dad's funeral. That was not expected, but I'm here. And it's nice to get back to some normalcy after a couple weeks off. So, today in 42, Discovering Faith Through Fandom, we're looking at Good Friday. We're looking at Jesus' crucifixion, and we're comparing it, or contrasting it rather, with a decision made by a character in the show Haven, which is somewhat loosely based off some Stephen King work. So, all right. Day 9, Our Haven, by Eric Anderson. This man was handed over to you by God's deliberate plan and foreknowledge, and you, with the help of wicked men, put him to death by nailing him to a cross. Acts 2:23. It had been a long night, and it was early in the morning. He had been questioned, beaten, spat on, and falsely accused. He had been on trial before the Sanhedrin, the ruling council of the Jews, and before a governor and a king. Now he was carrying a cross, his cross. He was being treated like a thief or a murderer. In fact, 2 thieves were walking the same path with him. Eventually, he fell to the ground, weary from torture. The soldiers had a man from Cyrene carry Jesus' cross the rest of the way, but he still had to walk. Golgotha, the place of the skull, a hill outside the gates of the city. This was his morbid destination. He had known this was coming, and Jesus, King of the Jews, as the sign above his head would read, was ready for this. He had prayed late into the night, filled with pain at what needed to happen. After he had been hanging on the cross for a long time, he felt a disturbance in his spirit, surely more powerful than the disturbance Yoda felt when many Jedi were killed at Order 66. He cried out, "Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani," which means, my God, why have you forsaken me?" In that moment, Jesus experienced a greater separation from God than you and I can ever know. In that moment, Jesus took on all the sin from all of time and space. This death was painful. Nails in his hands and feet, torture beforehand, a crown of thorns pressed onto his head. The rejection that came just hours before, when the people chose a criminal instead of him for release from the shame of the cross. Yet there was purpose in it. He was redeeming the world. Substitutionary atonement. He was dying for us. You see, at just the right time, when we were still powerless, Christ died for the ungodly, Romans 5:6. He is the atoning sacrifice for our sins, and not only for ours, but also for the whole world, 1 John 2:2. Jesus died for others, not for himself. He could have walked away, as he had done before when his own hometown had tried to stone him. But he had a plan to save the world. All the sacrifices Israel had done for thousands of years had led to this. They had pointed to this day. On the Day of Atonement, the high priest would sprinkle blood from sacrifices on the atonement cover of the Ark of the Covenant. This happened every year. But Jesus was sinless. He could be the sacrifice himself. but one that would last into eternity. In order for this to pan out, God chose to forsake him on the cross. Jesus, 100% God and 100% man, accepted death to make atonement for us permanent. In the show Haven, many of the townspeople have troubles that come upon them. These are often powers that affect those around them, such as the girl who changes weather with her emotions, or something that inhibits the people, such as the families where the men have to move underwater because they go from breathing air to needing to be in water. Audrey Parker is immune to the effects. Every time the troubles come, she can choose to go into a barn. That barn amplifies her love, thereby holding the troubles at bay. But after time, she needs to recharge her love. So she comes out of the barn and the troubles come back. There is only one way she could stop this continuous, endless cycle of the barn. Someone she loves must die. So appalled at the thought of this, she always chooses to go back into the barn. She chooses to leave her loved ones instead of saving thousands forever by the death of one of them. God made a different choice. He chose to end the continuous cycle of sin and animal sacrifice, to provide power for us to change our ways and grow in him by the death of his son. Okay, our quest of the week, our quest of the video, is 3 parts, 3 sections of reading from the scriptures. And each of these has a different part to play as you explore this whole concept of Jesus atoning for our sins. The first part, number 1, read Leviticus chapter 16. That is one of the chapters that outlines the animal sacrifices, and it's not really considered a fun read, but it's a very important read for what we're talking about here. It'll help you to understand the history of what the Jews did for atonement for sins for thousands of years. So Leviticus chapter 16, then read Matthew chapters 26 and 27. This will show you what Jesus went through. His trial, his crucifixion. This gives you that story. And then read Hebrews chapters 9 and 10. And Hebrews does a great job of pulling all of this reading together and giving you an idea of this is why Jesus went through this. This is how God pulled all of these strings together. So Leviticus chapter 16, Matthew chapters 26 and 27, Hebrews chapters 9 and 10. So later this month, I will be at Tulip City Comics and Toy Show. Great show. I go there every year. A nice one-day show on a Sunday in Holland, Michigan. This year we'll be back at the Civic building, so that's exciting. The day before that, I have the game day for Nerd Chapel for the month. That also is wrestling in Spring Lake. So check our social media for info on these kinds of things. And if you like what you're seeing, if you want to support especially the convention ministries I do, then check out my Patreon page, patreon.com/nerdchapel, and see if it's something you want to support. I hope you're having a great day. Bye-bye.